I'd started my career, so to say, by selling saris at his textile store.
Saris?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I did three businesses before I started Cokarma.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you name some famous companies that operate out of Cokarma?
I've mentioned Hyundai, then Royal Enfield has been a client.
Okay.
Zepto has been a client for about
Okay.
a year and a half. We recently signed Zomato. So we've
Zomato?
taken close to about 200 seats.
200 seats.
Yeah.
So you're saying co-working spaces in India would be around like $300 billion in the next 5 years?
Yes.
Being an experienced entrepreneur and doing this for a decade now, can you throw some light on the pros and cons of raising venture money? Hello everyone, welcome to Founders and Fortunes. My name is Aditya and the aim of this channel is to feature some of the most brilliant entrepreneurs from the city of Hyderabad and explore their journeys to success. Now, if you're a business owner or a founder or a budding entrepreneur who's in college, this channel is dedicated to you. Now, for a budding entrepreneur, the biggest challenges they face is finding the right office space. Now, today's guest is very, very special because he's someone who's solving this particular problem for thousands of entrepreneurs and making a fortune out of it. So without wasting much of time, let's introduce the guest today. Hello, Tarun. Welcome to Founders and Fortunes.
Thank you, Aditya. Glad to be here.
Likewise. So Tarun, before we take a deep dive into your business that is Cokarma,
Right.
I would like you to tell the audience a little bit about yourself in terms of your life before Cokarma. What did you do? How did you get into Cokarma in the first place?
Right. So how did I get into Cokarma and what was I before that? So I come from a typical Marwari sort of a background, Marwari Baniya family. And my first exposure to business was with my father. Right. I'd started my career, so to say, by selling saris at his textile store.
Saris?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, yeah, my father had that business and that was a family business which is still going on. It's been running for about 60 years now. And that's where I sort of started seeing what business is and understand what different parts of business is. And this was at the age of 13, right? So
13.
What I used to do was after my school, whenever there was peak business months, I used to go to my father's sort of store and see, what he's doing, or probably help him out, fold saris or sell saris, meet clients, greet clients, right? So
that's a typical Baniya thing to do. Right from after your school and college hours, you straight away go into the shop and then dukaan mangal karke you go back home.
Exactly. And then you don't realize, right? That's like your first internship. Right?
True.
These days, kids fancy internships, which they do after 25, 26 years of age. But if you come from a background like that, you start getting exposure at that age. That was my first exposure. I started learning a bit more about business when I told myself that that's not the comfortable environment that I want to be in. I want to give myself a lot more exposure.
Okay.
Which was slightly different to me. I mean, I saw a lot of people being comfortable in what they were doing, but I said, I want to go out of
What
this
age
sort of
was
setup.
this?
This was at the age of 15 and a half.
Okay.
Right. I was doing my intermediate.
Okay. Plus two.
So I said, so my uncle was pretty smart, right? My mother's brother.
Okay.
And I told myself that I will go to his business and just spend time with him. My idea was to spend time with him and understand how he does his things.
He's that chill uncle.
Right? Like
of yours.
shadow him sorts.
Okay. And what business was he into?
So he used to run a factory. He used to run a dal mill.
Okay.
Right? So they used to manufacture tur dal and then sell it across country.
Understood.
So I spent about 3-4 months with him in my sort of holidays. And in that 3-4 months, for the first time, I learned what break-even is, what ROI is, what a balance sheet is, what a P&L is, right?
And you
At
were
that
around
age.
16, 17.
No. 15 and a half, 16.
Okay.
Yeah. So I did that. I think I started getting exposure to, business at that early age. And then I did my graduation. I did my commerce degree. While I was doing my commerce degree as well, I realized that, my plan for life, so to say, was to, study, engineering and then do an MBA.
Okay.
And then I'm set for life, right? I'm going to be in US or somewhere in the world and then doing the best. But that didn't happen.
True.
I ended up in a commerce degree. And I was like, well, I'm doing a commerce degree. I already know so much about accounts and finance. What more am I going to learn in college?
True.
So I said, I'll sort of expose myself to different sorts of jobs. So for the first time, anybody in my family sort of went in a corporate and took a job in a corporate. I went to HDFC Standard Life and said, I want to sell insurance, right? So this was my first time out of family that I've done something.
Like in a typical Marwari family, people would go like, why do you want to work at somebody else's business?
Yeah.
Why don't you get into family business?
Yeah.
Kya karenge wahan jaake and all.
Yeah.
So it's very orthodox for typical Marwari and Gujarati families. I'm a Gujarati myself.
Oh, okay.
So it's very orthodox in our families to not run a business.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was lucky that way. I think my parents gave me a lot of freedom and had a lot of confidence in me and they let me do whatever I wanted to do.
Okay.
So that's where I think I got a little bit lucky as well. and I was a bit of a rebel as well. Like I did whatever I wanted to do.
Understood.
So I said I wanted to get some more exposure, right? So I went and sold insurance for some time. I did Amway for some time. Then I, final year of my college, I went and worked in a call center,
Okay.
right? And then so what I used to do was to, go to college in the morning, and then sleep for a couple of hours, then go to the call center, spend like 8 to 10 hours over there, come back, sleep for a couple of hours, and then go to college again.
Understood.
It's crazy. Like 4 hours sleep in batches for about 6-8 months. And so I did that, right? So I exposed myself to a lot of places. And you say, right, you can only connect dots looking backwards.
100%.
So when I went to Australia, because I'd done that call center job for 6 months, I had a bit of a, English fluency that I could use.
True.
I could connect to people easily, right? And I used that when I went to Australia. So I went to Australia, lived there for about 8 years. Started doing my own businesses from the year 2009,
Okay.
2009-10, right? So I did 3 businesses before I started Cokarma.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can
And
you throw
then-
some light on those businesses which you ran, like the first one, or whether it failed or succeeded, the second one, the third one?
Yeah, sure. So where do I start from? So my first business was, so while I was studying in college, what I realized was, there's a lot of content and data available for industries that are in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a company called Ibis World, and they would
Okay.
provide A to Z of any industry that you pick up, and you could read about, and you could understand about the industry, right? Anything, right? So
True.
you could say medical industry of Australia, and it would tell you who the major players are, what the market segmentation is, how the market has been growing. You could see all the trends. Just
Understood.
150-60 page report,
Okay.
and that was available for about 300-400 industries
Okay.
in one database.
Crazy.
Something like that didn't exist for India.
True.
I'm not sure if something like that exists still.
True.
For India, right? So my idea was to create something like that for India,
Okay.
right? So create a database of industries for Indian industries, right? So we started writing reports on that, right?
Okay.
So we wrote a report on wine industry of India, automobile industry of India, telecom industry of India. A to Z reports. So that was my first business. My second business, because my dad had a sari business,
Mhm.
I was trying to do D2C. So that was the first business. We were trying to replicate a database for industries in India,
Okay.
and we had a lot of viewership. We launched a website.
Mm-hmm.
We had hundreds of sort of students using it, hundreds of businesses using it. We saw ICFI, one of the books in ICFI, referring, our sort of report in
Mhm.
their sort of case study.
Crazy.
So it was doing well from that perspective.
Mhm.
That was the first business. The second business, we were trying to do D2C
Okay.
in the year 2012
Okay.
for saris,
Okay.
right? So what we were saying was, if anybody needed a sari across the world, they would be able to go to the website, and then it would come directly from the manufacturer,
Understood.
right? So I think we were a little too early for that sort of a business.
True.
And then I was trying to do both these businesses while I was in Australia,
Mm-hmm.
and they were all very connected to India, and somebody had to be present here to
True.
do them. And then my third business, I said, if I'm doing my third business, and if it is connected to India, and all my ideas used to be like solving for India,
True.
right? So if I'm going to do my third business, I'll come to India and do it.
Understood.
So my third business was in EdTech.
Okay.
So what we were trying to do was we were trying to provide tutors to students.
Okay.
So it was like Uber for tutoring.
Okay.
So people could have math tutors, science tutors, guitar tutors,
Okay.
and somebody would either come to your home and teach. You could go to a tutor's home, or you could learn online.
Understood. So,
So that-
every tutor would have a rating by students, and
They would have a
can-
rating, they would have a profile.
Perfect.
Students would have a rating and profile, and they could do payments. People could track attendance.
True.
We built like a couple of Android apps for it. There was a whole blown website and database of tutors that we had.
So this was based out of Hyderabad, which the third business you were doing.
Yeah. So, so Ekta was also my wife and partner in my business. She was a
Okay.
partner in my edtech company, Learn More, and then she's a partner in Cokarma as well.
Okay.
So both of us thought of doing this business in 2014,
Mm-hmm.
and we said we'll come to India and do this,
Understood.
right? And that's how Cokarma started. Actually,
Okay.
the way Cokarma started was when we came back to India.
Mhm.
I used to live in an area called Narayangura,
Okay.
right? And in 2014, we were looking for co-working spaces in Hyderabad.
There were no co-working
There were no co-working spaces. People didn't know the meaning of co-working
True.
spaces. We looked around the entire city, couldn't find anything.
Mhm.
So we said we'll start a small 40-seater space,
Okay.
run our 4-5 people company, a tech company from there, and rest of the space we'll give to other entrepreneurs that live around that area.
Okay.
That's how Cokarma started.
So back in the day, did we have the demand that other people were looking for a space that they can share with other peers?
We didn't know, we didn't think that much.
Okay.
We just thought that, we need a space for us,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we knew that there are other entrepreneurs that live around that area,
Okay.
right? You mentioned that you come from Kajura. There are a lot of business brains that live
True.
around that area.
All Gujarati Marwadi crowd.
Gujarati Marwari. We were like, we'll see, we'll figure it out.
Understood.
As an entrepreneur, you're like, you'll figure it out. You'll see if there's demand or
True.
not.
True.
So we just did a plain website. One page of website is what we did for Cokarma.
Okay.
And then, the main focus was the edtech company, right? So
Understood.
after moving back from 2014, first 3 years were mainly focused on that company.
Okay.
2017-18 is when we started focusing full time on Cokarma. Yeah, so that's the background.
So
on the
what
businesses
happened what happened to the previous company, the third edtech company which you were
edtech
running?
company,
You
right?
sold it
So
off, or like how did it go?
I mean, we learned a lot from
Uh-huh.
it, right? And then we were trying to do a tech company, right?
Mhm.
So I think the biggest challenge was at that time a lot of focus was on Byju's,
Okay.
right? And then everybody was like, "This is not Byju's, so it's not going to be a unicorn."
True.
So raising funding was hard.
100%.
So that was one challenge that we had. The other challenge that we had was, the business model,
Mhm.
right? We would send tutors to people's homes, and then there was leakages, right? So people
True.
would try and hire directly, like similar stuff that urban company would face in their
100%.
initial days. So we were facing a couple of those challenges.
Understood.
So what happened with that company was we didn't say we will close it,
Okay.
and we didn't close it. What happened was we said, "Oh, Cokarma is doing well," and then in fact it was one of my friends who said, "Hey, your spaces are running full all the time.
Mhm.
Why don't you just grow this business?"
Understood.
So we said we'll start another space. We'll just double it in that same building,
Mhm.
and we'll see how that goes.
Cool.
So we doubled our sort of inventory.
Mhm.
It got filled up in about 17 days.
17 days.
We were like, there is something here. Let's just focus on this now,
Mhm.
because at least it's paying our bills,
100%.
right? So we said we'll keep focusing on this, and we'll see how both of them go.
So can you tell me more about the kind of clients you had at Cokarma initially? Like
Initially.
the people who were sharing office space with you, what kind of businesses they were into, what kind of people they were?
So initially, co-working was primarily used by freelancers
Mhm.
or startups.
Hmm.
That was the only audience that was there.
True.
And then, because there were not many co-working spaces in the city, if people were looking for workspaces, our website would come up.
Okay.
Right.
Naturally, you got the benefit of SEO.
Yeah.
Understood.
So that those were our clientels.
Okay.
It was mainly freelancers and small businesses.
Understood.
In fact, my first client was a couple of my friends,
Okay.
right? So when we thought of Cokarma the first time,
Mhm.
we thought it'll be all open desking.
Okay.
Open desking, all co-working.
Mhm.
They came to us and said, we don't want open desking.
Okay.
We want a private cabin.
True.
Build a cabin for us.
Okay.
If you do that, then we'll take a space.
Understood.
So I built a cabin specifically for them.
Your friends.
My
those
friends.
people.
Yeah. So we built
Understood.
like a 4-seater cabin for them and gave it to them.
Understood.
Yeah.
So right now you said that Cokarma is operating in around 10 to 11 places across Hyderabad.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about the journey from the first Himatnagar Adda of yours to multiple branches now?
See, I think it also starts before that,
Mhm.
right? So I think as a person, right, if I wanted to just be comfortable,
Mhm.
I could have lived a very beautiful life in Australia,
Understood.
right? I used to live in Melbourne, one of the best rated cities in the world.
True.
Lovely beaches, wonderful people, right? I could have lived a comfortable life there,
Mhm.
but that's not what I wanted. I always wanted to do something, which would make a difference, which would last more than me.
True.
Right? So that's what I wanted as a person.
Hmm.
So when we started Cokarma or Learn More or anything before that, the vision was to take it, make it big.
Okay.
So, when Cokarma started growing, we didn't know where it would go.
True.
Because it also started as a side hustle. We didn't know that it will become very big.
True.
But what we did well was we listened to the market.
Okay.
So as an entrepreneur, right, regardless of what your vision is, you have to listen to what the market is saying.
True.
So the market told us that 40 seats are running full.
Full.
You started another 40 seats, that's running full.
Hmm.
So maybe you can keep growing more. See what sort of clientele you're getting.
Understood.
So the way we started our third center, right, was somebody called us and said we need 60, 70 seats in the IT corridor of
Okay.
the city. You find something for us and give us.
Understood.
So what I did was I took my car, went around the city, went to Gachibowli, Kondapur, high-tech city on a Saturday,
Mhm.
looking for spaces, speaking to, property owners, trying to get some deals. Couldn't find anything.
Okay.
Saturday couldn't find anything, Sunday couldn't find anything. Did the same thing the next weekend.
Okay.
Couldn't find anything on a Saturday, couldn't find anything on the next Sunday as well.
Okay.
And then I gave up. I was like, I can't find anything that fits in his budget and that I like as well as a space.
True.
So what I did was from the Gachibowli flyover, this is 2018 that I'm talking about.
Okay.
From the Gachibowli flyover, right, I went to Kondapur, Botanical Garden Road.
Mhm.
Like, I'll just stroll around.
True.
I'm just going back home now. I found a building which said too late.
Okay.
I stopped there. I said, "Itne buildings dekh liye hai, ek aur buildings hai." I stopped. I got out of my car and called the person. He said some fancy rate. I said it's not going to work.
Okay.
There was a building next to it which had a coffee day downstairs.
Okay.
It had another toilet upstairs.
Okay.
I couldn't have seen that toilet if I didn't see the toilet that
Understood.
was downstairs.
True.
So I saw that toilet as well. I was like, "Isko kar liya, usko bhi kar leta hai." I called that person. He said, "I'll come and show you the space. Then we'll talk the rates."
Understood.
So I went there, the space, and he opened the space and showed me. It was half done already.
Okay.
It was beautifully done.
Understood.
The space is owned by a doctor,
Okay.
right? And he wanted to make that space for his son who wanted to run an animation studio,
Okay.
right? So he had done half the space.
All
and
the desk would be there, computer setups and all.
yeah, computer wasn't there,
Of course.
but
But
beautiful
it was
desk,
designed in a way where you can put a lot of computers. and
industrial
desk.
layout,
Okay.
offices that I had seen, similar offices I had seen in Australia,
Okay.
right? Before time.
Mm-hmm.
So that space was made before time. 2018 was very beautiful. And then half of the space he was going to live there, right? But he wasn't using that entire space. The guy went to Mumbai
Okay.
for some reason. So we said, I like the space here. It's beautiful. And then I asked, what is your per square foot rate?
FFT price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's at some fancy rate. He said about 52 rupees.
Okay.
I said, it's not going to work out. I offered a rate. I said 30 rupees mein aap karoge, to main le lunga, ab batao.
Okay.
And then I was like, it's almost half. He's not going to say yes. And we went back home.
Okay.
Couple of days later, the guy called up and said, hey, sir, आपको चाहिए था ना वो space? अभी भी चाहिए तो मैं दे दूंगा.
30 mein.
30 में.
Okay.
Done. Next day I went there, signed up the space with the doctor in his hospital,
Mm-hmm.
and started over there.
How big was it? How many people could sit over there?
So that was a 90-seater space.
90 seater. And you were looking for around 60 to 70 seater in which ways?
Yeah, we were looking for 60 to 70. By the time we found that space and signed it,
Mm-hmm.
the client had went off.
Oh,
That client had come only so that we can find that space, is how I see it.
true.
And that space was actually a turning point in our sort of Cokarma journey.
Okay.
Because the design that was there for that animation studio,
Mm-hmm.
it's a similar design that we run at all our spaces pretty much now,
Even today.
even today.
Okay.
The texture of the tables,
Mm-hmm.
the industrial look,
Okay.
the focus on little things like, hanging lights, even if it's a smaller space,
Reception area and all.
reception area and all, right? So,
Perfect.
yeah.
What about the second branch?
I mean, second and third, right, parallel.
Okay.
So, second branch was in the same sort of space, which was just sort of double the capacity.
Okay.
So that's what I meant by.
Understood.
But all of that is now one branch now.
Okay. The whole thing is one branch.
The whole thing has 120 seats now.
Hmm.
Took up more space in that building.
Understood.
Yeah.
So Tarun, like you said, you own 11, not 11, but 10 Cokarmas right now.
Mhm.
So when you're launching a new branch, so
Mhm.
what's the strategy behind acquiring that place? Whether you buy that property off, do you lease it? If you're leasing it, what's the procedure of leasing it and how does it work?
Right. So see, typically in a co-working, right, the model works in 2-3 ways, right? So what people can do is they can lease out a space, build the infrastructure,
Okay.
and then give it out to their clients.
True.
That's one way of doing it.
True.
That's how we did our first 3 properties.
First three. Okay.
The fourth property, what we did was, this was 2019. There were people who owned a building,
Okay.
right? And they came to us and said, we want to run a Cokarma branch here. Would you be interested in working with us?
Kind of franchising.
Yeah. So it works like a franchise revenue share,
Okay.
right? So what we did with them was, they own the asset. They build the entire infrastructure based on our specification,
Okay.
right? And then we operate, manage, market it,
Understood.
right? So
So from fourth branch onwards, you started being asset light.
we did asset light from the fourth branch onwards, right? Because each of these properties, right, the capex cost is very high.
True.
And then we realize that there are property owners with capital that we can leverage,
True.
right? So that's what we started doing.
Understood.
So fourth property was sort of a franchise. And then there's another model which AWF has, which is a very successful sort of co-working company from India.
Okay.
They do a revenue share model. They also work with like property owners, and then property owners sort of invest in infrastructure, and they'll come in as an operator, marketer of the space.
Understood. Perfect. So right now, all the from fourth branch onwards till the 10th branch, all these are like franchisee revenue based.
Yes.
Understood. Perfect.
Yeah. So we try and keep it asset light because understand, right? Each of these properties, building it would probably take anywhere between like 2.5-3 crores to about 6-7 crores.
True. Now, Tarun, also from 2014 when you started till today, 2024, it's almost been 10 years. How has the requirement of a customer who's approaching for a co-working space evolved?
Right. So the clienteles that are using co-working spaces now is completely changed.
Mm-hmm.
For example, we had recently signed Hyundai as one of our clients.
Okay.
Hyundai car company.
Okay.
Or Royal Enfield has been a client with us for about a year and a half.
Okay.
Right. So they are sort of, head office of Hyderabad.
Back-end
sort of
operations would
back-end operations runs from our space.
Okay.
Right. So that's the sort of clientele, right? So right now what is happening is you have obviously your startups using co-working spaces.
True.
You have small and medium sizes companies using co-working spaces, IT and
Freelancers.
non-IT.
Okay.
You have professionals such as chartered accountants, interior designers using co-working spaces. And now large enterprises have started using co-working spaces as well.
Now,
So if I give you a larger picture,
Mm-hmm.
what is happening now is if you think about the office real estate market, it's close to about $1 trillion in India.
Only in
Entire
India.
office real estate market.
Okay.
Co-working managed office is about 8 to 10%.
Okay.
of their entire market. That is getting converted into, a lot of that market share is getting converted into co-working.
Okay.
So from that 8 to 10%, it would go up to 30-35%.
In how long your project?
In about 5-6 years.
Next 5-6 years.
Next
Okay.
5-6 years.
Okay.
So that's the opportunity the co-working players have in the market.
Okay. So
And that's what's happening, right? So whoever is using office space is sort of converting.
So it's around like you're saying co-working spaces in India would be around like $300 billion in the next 5 years.
Yes, close to that. Yes.
Right now it's around like somewhere around $1 billion.
Right now it's about 8-10 billion.
8-10.
Yeah.
Okay, understood.
Mhm.
Perfect. So Tarun, Cokarma sounds as a very interesting name. So what's the story behind Cokarma as a name?
Yeah, there is an interesting story behind the name. Essentially, the concept was co-working, right?
True.
So I was looking for something co, and then we thought of so many names. We discussed close to about 60-65 names when we were thinking of a name. And one day while I was driving, and this was going in my subconscious mind, karma suddenly sort of struck, right? And I said, Cokarma, right? Really rings a bell.
Okay.
But where I was going with this was karma is also doing good work.
True.
And the essence behind the brand is bring people together so that they can all do good work and we can make the world a better place.
Good karma.
Right? So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to do good karma with Cokarma, right? So, so that's the story behind how we came up with the name. Where we want to take the name is, I think Cokarma will probably come out as one of the coolest brands out of Hyderabad. That's the vision behind where we want to take this.
Okay.
We want to take the brand from here to the world.
Understood.
And yeah, we'll see where it goes.
Perfect. Now, Tarun, you said after from the fourth branch, you started basically collaborating with people in terms of franchising model. So did you ever feel a need of raising money as venture capital?
Not really. So essentially, initially we were thinking, we didn't know how big we wanted to make this, right? After we opened our fourth branch, COVID hit.
Okay.
Right. So our fourth branch was started in Feb 2020. March 2020
was the lockdown.
And that was our biggest branch. It was a 400-seater branch.
400-seater, okay.
So at that point in time, right, for a year and a half, it was all about survival.
True.
All about how we sort of stay put for that period.
True.
After COVID sort of started ending, that's when we sort of started seeing a lot of growth come in. And most of the growth that you see, right? So at that point in time, we were close to about 600 seats.
Okay.
We're about 3,200 seats now.
As of today?
Yeah, up to date.
Okay.
In the 10 branches that we have, we've just signed up our 11th branch.
Okay.
Right? So 3,600 seats is what we have currently as a portfolio. The goal is to take it to about 20-25 centers and grow it from there.
Okay.
We haven't raised any venture funding because the way we have been growing is partnering with people who have properties and who have sort of leverage of money.
Understood.
Right? So they would sort of either own an asset and they would do an infrastructure as per our specification, and we would come in as a marketer operator of the space.
Understood.
Right? Or they would take up a space on rent, and then they would do it as per what we need at that space. Right?
Understood.
So that's how we've been growing from these 10-11 branches. We realize now that we may need venture money or some sort of external funding to come in.
Okay.
To help us get to the next stage.
Understood.
Yeah.
So Tarun, one question I would like to ask is a lot of college students who are aspiring to be entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Like they've been watching Shark Tank also a lot. Like we started watching Shark Tank before even it was cool in India. Like the Western Shark Tank is something I grew up watching. And now that the Indian Shark Tank version is there, a lot of young entrepreneurs, first thing that comes to the mind is funding.
Yeah.
Right. So being an experienced entrepreneur and doing this for a decade now, can you throw some light on the pros and cons of raising venture money?
Yeah, I think if you think about young entrepreneurs, right? If you're an entrepreneur just starting up, I think instead of thinking about venture funding, instead of thinking about co-founder, instead of thinking of various other things that you can think of, think about, be true to the problem that you're trying to solve.
Okay.
Right? What is the problem that you're trying to solve? Right? And do whatever is required around that.
Okay.
What we were trying to do as a business is trying to start up a office space for people that live around that area.
Understood.
We're trying to do that, and we said that we'll do that well.
Understood.
Right? So as far as you focus on the problem, everything else will come secondary, right?
True.
So for us, when we started building up spaces, we realized that we should learn what is good interiors.
True.
If you do good interiors and if you provide good infrastructure, then your clients who come in will be happy.
True.
They will like the space that they're seeing and they will like to stay there for longer because the infrastructure is nice.
It makes them feel good.
Makes them feel good and makes them stay as well because everything is taken care of.
True.
Right? So we also saw spaces as utilities, right? You come in, you should, if electricity is working, right, you wouldn't really feel it. You only feel electricity only if it's not there.
True.
Right? So spaces are like that. You come in, it's a utility that you use, and then you come in, you do your work and you go out.
Understood.
That's how we thought about spaces, right? So you build good infrastructure, you solve really well for your customer. Now we said, what is required next? We felt that we required teams to come in, right? So we started building a team around it. We started building a team of community managers. We started building like a team of sales and operations to help our clients get there. So teams is what we started growing. Then services. What amenities do they need? Earlier it was only like Wi-Fi and air conditioning.
True.
Now they need a game zone. Now at our latest space there is a nap room. There's a reading room.
Okay.
Right. We have a large cafe that goes with spaces. Right. So there are other things that people need as well.
Meeting
now,
rooms and all.
Yeah, meeting rooms and all. Yeah. So all that comes by.
True.
As you grow and as you listen to your customers, they will tell you what you need.
Okay.
Now our customers are telling us we need Cokarma at a lot of places.
Okay.
Right, so that we can go there and work from there. We want to make this like a McDonald's of co-working. How do we replicate this in other cities? Right? Some of our clients need this at other cities. So we'll try and do that next. And then for that, maybe we would need venture money, right?
Okay.
So and that's how we sort of approach this.
So coming back to the question, like now as a company running this for 10 years now, you are feeling a need of raising venture money.
Yeah.
Right. But a lot of people have this perception. Even I started a couple of businesses before I got into social media marketing and then eventually into podcasting. So my thing was, I'll pitch a great idea to one of the investors. I'll get a funding.
Yeah.
And I'll name myself as a founder. And great, we are good to go.
Yeah.
I'll just execute my idea with the ventures money.
Yeah.
Right. So in my experience, in my opinion, what I understood was once you have someone putting in money in your company and trading that with your stake, right? I believe like you became a slave to them in a certain way, in the sense because now your way of making independent decisions will go for a toss because there's somebody else who has to say something about it.
Yeah.
So I personally felt that raising money as a company is not something everybody should do. What's your take on this?
I think there's no right or wrong answer to that.
Okay.
I think, there are a lot of people who have raised money and they've done successful businesses. And there are a lot of people who have raised money and failed after raising money, right? And the way I approach this is, I say, I want to work with people who I like working with.
Okay.
Right? And that's how I hire my team. That's how we sort of recruit our members as well. Sometimes if we don't like somebody, we say we will not be able to give you a space because of whatever reason, right?
Okay.
So you want to be around people that you like, right? So whenever we choose an investor in our company, it'll be the same way.
Okay.
We should be able to sit with them, have a laugh with them, right? Go for dinners with them. And then money will be a byproduct, right? Vibe check. Vibe check has to be there.
Perfect.
So we should be able to give them a return on the investment that they've made, but we should also be able to spend good time with them. They shouldn't, and if they understand us as people, understand what we're doing as a company and what we're trying to, become as Cokarma, then they would understand whatever we're doing and not be a pain in the ass.
Makes sense.
To put
now also, now that you are expanding in a rapid pace,
Yeah.
can you walk me through your organization as to who are some of the key people holding key responsibilities and how having those people makes life easier?
Right. So I'll tell you who we have. Largely, we have close to about 70-75 people working in our organization.
Total strength.
In totality.
Okay.
Which includes me and Ekta, and then our core team, then our community managers at centers, and then our support staff, which is housekeeping, security guards, everything else.
Okay.
Right. So at a core, right? So I should introduce Ekta as well.
Yeah.
Who's my wife? What she does is she handles all the accounting, finance, bookkeeping, that side of the business.
She's good with numbers.
She's the numbers person.
Okay.
And I run all the sort of front end operations, marketing relationship.
Okay. Understood.
So the way I put it is, if I'm the face of the company, she's the backbone.
Understood.
Right. Then what we have is we have the rest of the company, right? So what we have is somebody who handles our sales, right? So we have a sales head, and then we have an operations head,
Okay.
and then we have a team sort of who runs the marketing and social media, right? So
Okay.
so they are the voice of the company, and then people who are running the operations, right? They are the heart and soul, right?
True.
Because the operations, if that doesn't run well,
Everything else goes for it.
then
Toss.
it all collapses.
True.
And then our sales, right? Harsh is sitting here
Okay.
with me. Mitra was here a little bit ago. So they are like the voice of the company or people who are sort of putting us out there.
Understood.
They're seeing the clients on a day-to-day basis.
Understood. Now also, Tarun, who's an ideal client for you? Like how we as customers look for an ideal place to choose from. For you, who's an ideal client?
Ideal client जैसा कोई नहीं यार, सब client हमारे लिए भगवान है.
कोई जान दो.
We look at one or two seater clients the same way we look at a Hyundai, right?
Okay.
Right. Having somebody like a Hyundai gives a lot of validation.
True.
But that is only a small percentage of the entire portfolio that we have.
True.
The majority of the portfolio that we have is small companies, small enterprises, startups, small businesses, right?
Understood.
In terms of the, if I talk about the entire portfolio, freelancers would be very, very small.
Okay.
It'd be just like 1%.
Only
of the
1%.
Only 1% of the entire portfolio.
Okay.
Then larger companies would be probably about 15-20% currently.
Okay.
And then the rest is like SME.
Understood.
The SME is a key to what we're doing
Okay.
currently.
Can you name some famous companies that operate out of Cokarma?
I've mentioned Hyundai a
Hyundai.
few times on this podcast. Then Royal Enfield has been a client.
Okay.
Zepto has been a client for about
Okay.
a year and a half. We recently signed Zomato. They've
Zomato.
taken close to about 200 seats. with us.
200 seats. Okay. Also, now that you're talking about these big players working out of Cokarma,
Hmm.
I also had this question now because of most of these companies we see for a Zepto, for example, or Zomato, for example,
Hmm.
they are loaded with venture money.
Hmm.
So why don't these companies start their own office, and why are these companies now shifting towards a co-working environment?
It relates to the previous point that I was saying.
Hmm.
What is happening is a lot of people have realized that working out of a co-working center is a lot more easier
Hmm.
for them as a business.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, if you're taking office in a traditional way,
Hmm.
you would have to find a space first.
Okay.
Then you would have to do the infrastructure. Then if you're running a small team, you would have to have like all these services that an office would have.
Hmm.
You need to have an office boy, you would need to have an internet which is working all the time.
True.
And then the office has to be at a nice location.
Air condition.
Air conditioning has to be, and if there is a problem,
Hmm.
then either the founder has to take it on him or the key
Landlord.
person at the company. For
True.
example, Zepto's key person
Okay.
would have to look at a small issue as pani khatam ho gaya coffee machine,
Okay.
right? Obviously, he doesn't want to do that.
True.
All of that headache is taken care by a co-working company.
Hmm.
Plus, they get a lot of flexibility. For example, Zepto, when they started with a small 4-5 seater space.
Only 4-5 seats.
Only 4-5 seats.
Okay.
Now they have close to 35 seats with us.
Okay.
Right? Similarly, another company, they started with just 1 seat with us. They have close to about 300 seats now. with us.
300 seats. Would you mind naming that company?
Careerpedia is the name of the company.
Okay.
Right? Hyderabad-based startup.
Okay.
Again, just bootstrapped so far.
Just 1 seat.
They just started 1 seat in 2018. They were one of our first clients in that center that I was mentioning.
Okay.
Yeah. Now they have like 300 seats. Yeah.
300
Yeah.
seats.
So that's the flexibility that co-working gives you.
Mhm.
You can grow your company within that space,
True.
right? But that you wouldn't get in a traditional space,
So
right?
because what happens is, let's say I have an office which can accommodate 10 people.
Yeah.
The moment my team starts expanding, we're getting close to 15 people, 20 people, I have to look for a new office now.
Yeah.
Because it's become congested. But in a co-working space, you just have an option to expand as much as you want.
Yeah. Also for companies like you, right?
Hmm.
What we see is, for example, there was an HR firm.
Hmm.
They had all their clientele within Cokarma.
Okay.
They had like 6 clients within Cokarma and they were running their business with those 6 clients,
Okay.
right? So that's another advantage. You would get to network with other people
Hmm.
and collaborate with other people and potentially see clients there, right? So
Understood.
that's another advantage.
What
Hmm.
measures do you at Cokarma take so that people can network efficiently? Because what happens is when you walk in to Cokarma or any other co-working space for that
Mhm.
fact, as a first day person, let's say you just rented out the place, everybody is usually shy and people don't want to get into their personal space. Let's say somebody else is working out of his laptop.
Hmm.
I wouldn't feel comfortable barging into their personal space and go like, hey, I'm so and so and all.
Yeah.
So this I've seen in a lot of places happening. So what do you as a founder do to ensure people do network a lot?
Yeah. So see, we as Cokarma, right? We sort of, when we started, we decided that we'll not just provide a space.
Okay.
We'll make a difference for the people who are coming and working at our
Okay.
spaces. That's what we want to do as a brand.
Hmm.
So we'll do anything that they require.
Okay.
So firstly, what we do is when we speak to them, we understand what they need as a company.
Hmm.
So if they say I need more clients, I need marketing, I need accounting services, I need social media services, then we try and provide that directly to them. We'll introduce somebody from our network to them saying that this is the person who will provide you this
Okay.
service. So please go to them. So that way we are very approachable once they become a client to us. Secondly, what we do is, apart from T-Hub, we were probably the only sort of co-working space running regular meetups and events.
Okay.
We've been doing this since 2018-19.
Okay.
Right? Every year, we host close to about 70-80 events.
70 to 80.
70 to 80 events
Okay.
where founders or entrepreneurs can come in and network with other founders.
Okay.
Right? And then learn from them, make them clients, do hiring, do whatever they need as a business.
Okay.
We host an event called Demo Day in collaboration with an organization called Ichai. We host an event called Demo Day.
Yeah.
It's an organization called Ichai. So
Ichai. Okay.
Ichai is a network which runs events across India
Okay.
and across globe.
Okay.
Right? Around 30 countries where they run their events.
Okay.
Their Hyderabad chapter is run by us.
Okay.
Right? So what happens in that event is startups who are just thinking of an idea, or people who have just started it, come in and take feedback from live audience.
Okay.
So we have 70, 80 people attending that event every month.
Okay.
Right. So that's an opportunity for people to like pitch their idea, learn about pitching, practice their pitches, and also sell to people or hire people.
Okay.
Right. And then for the audience, it's a learning for them. They come in to learn what are the new ideas that are coming in this arena. Right. So that's what that event has been. We've been running that event for about 2.5 years now.
Okay.
Every month. Last Saturday of every month when we run this.
Okay. So last Saturday is a fun Saturday.
Fun Saturday for us. Yes.
Okay.
So we do a lot of those meetups and events, both in a casual way and in a direct way, right? Where you tell us what you need and we'll connect you to somebody in our network for this.
Okay.
So these are the two ways. Third way we are trying to do this is we are trying to build an app or a platform where people will be able to put up a request.
Okay.
Hey, this is something that I need. Is there somebody within Cokarma network that can provide us with this service?
Kind of a business community like BNI or something.
Not a BNI, but it's like a platform. It's like a Twitter or a Facebook feed where you can put in something and somebody from the community will respond to that.
Okay, understood. And also talking about numbers, now that you said you are into 10 places in Hyderabad.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, what was your company's revenue last year?
I'll tell you what we're going to do this year.
So
because a lot of these branches have just started this year, we'll do close to about 24 crores.
24 crores.
Yeah. It's about 2 crores on an average is what we're doing monthly.
Okay.
In terms of revenue.
Okay.
For all our branches.
Understood.
And then, a lot of this is sort of shared between a partner, a lot of this expense and other things as well. But that's what we're doing. We're growing 3x every year.
Okay.
So from that, you can sort of imagine what we did last year.
Also, Tarun, can you walk us through the cash flow management of your company? Because what happens is a lot of people, this is something me as a person is also facing. So once you start a business, you struggle and then you start making money out of it. And then expansion becomes a problem because it's all about cash flow management. How do you manage the money which is inflowing in your company?
Yeah.
Right. Whether you save it, whether you basically spend it on expansion, or how do you manage your money in the company? Can you just throw some light on that?
Yeah.
Let's say, sorry to cut you short. Let's say you were to open a 12th branch.
Yeah.
So how would it be funded? Where would the money come from within the organization?
Yeah. So I think, for us, right, and this is an advice for any person starting a business. Once you've identified a problem and once you've found a solution to the problem, the next thing you should do is not go out and build a product. You should go on and Excel.
Okay.
That's what we do. Once we identify a location and once we see that there are some clients who are going to sort of take up that location, we put up all the numbers.
Okay.
Which is we say, what is our rent over there? What is our expense going to be there? At what occupancy we are going to meet all our expense?
Break even.
And then how should we price it so that all the expenses taken care within 45-50% occupancy.
Okay.
Right. So for us or anybody who is starting a co-working space, all their expenses should be taken care within 50% of occupancy.
Okay. Next 50% is pure profit.
अगर आपका 500 सीटर का सेंटर है, 250 सीट में आपके सारे expense meet हो जाने चाहिए.
True.
Then typically your 80% is your 100% is what we say.
Okay.
In co-working.
Okay.
Right. मतलब your center will run at 80% efficiently.
All the time, any given point.
You should not assume you should go conservative. We go conservative. We say कि भाई 100% तो कभी नहीं होगा. Is how we sort of think of it when we are doing the first day.
Okay.
Of a branch. So we say कि 80% रहेगा, so we'll run efficiently. You have what 25-30% margin to play with.
True.
Right. So अगर 80% पे run होगा, so what is your price at that branch? That's how we start.
Okay.
Our centers, so to say, most of our centers are running in 90-95%, 100% occupancies from the past 6 months, 1 year. So all that is delta, all that is like sort of additional benefit that you have as.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you manage basically the money within the company? Let's say how much percentage of money do you put aside for your expansion? Let's say you expected around 80% occupancy, but you are hitting around 90-95, in some cases 99% efficiency
And
also.
99%
So do you get tempted? Okay, let's say we are getting more revenue, so let's take more money for personal spendings. Or are you strict with, okay, this is the amount of money I'm going to draw from Cokarma every month? How does that work?
Yeah, no, so we are very frugal about money.
Okay.
I mean, you can, and that's there as a culture in the company. And that's why Ekta and I are as well, right? We are not huge on spending.
Okay.
We're both workaholics. And then we're very careful about where we spend money because we have seen a period of COVID where money was very hard. We had to be very, very careful with money during that period. And in our initial days as well, after we came back from Australia, I mean, Cokarma only started doing well from the past few years.
Okay.
Before that, it was all struggle.
True.
So we have never forgotten those days, and I don't think we'll forget those days.
But I think after COVID hit,
Yeah.
people actually understood the importance of co-working spaces because it's very flexible. In other cases, you have to pay a hefty deposit for your offices,
Yeah.
and then you invest a lot in interiors, customizations, ACs, TVs, and whatnot. But at co-working space, it's very easy. Tomorrow, let's say your business is not doing well, you just give them a month or 2 months notice, and you're just good to go. So I think this shift in people's mindset, like you said, you just started doing well in the last few years, which is after COVID. That came because of COVID, I believe.
It was doing well just before COVID as well.
Okay.
Just before COVID as well. In 2000, late 2000, 2019.
18s. Okay, 18, 19.
2019, last 6 months were really good for the industry. And we used to get a lot of calls for people saying that we have properties, please come and see our property, expand here, expand there.
Okay.
So as an industry, COVID or no COVID, it would have done well. I think COVID just put a break and then it just accelerated everything that was just sort of missing.
Okay.
So I don't think just COVID was the lever. COVID sort of helped a lot of enterprises realize the value of co-working. But it was going to come.
Okay.
This wave of co-working was going to come is how we saw it. Yeah.
What was the occupancy like in COVID? 0?
No, not zero. Never zero.
Okay.
It was a very hard period, to be honest. When COVID first hit, right? You as entrepreneurs are very like optimistic all the time. So when COVID hit, I was like, see, world to khatam hone wala hai nahi.
True.
We are not all going to die. Because if you go with that mindset, then you can't
It's
do anything.
over.
So I was like, sab marne wala to hai nahi. World is going to come back to normal someday. And when it comes back to normal, people will look for flexibility. Co-working will become a natural option for people.
Okay.
That was my thesis in my head. Luckily, it played out that way.
Okay.
Yeah. So we said, let's just hang in there for this period. And, during that period, how did we manage during that period? See, we were always good with our, suppliers and vendors and owners of properties, right? So our rents always go on time. We never got a call for people calling us and saying, rent pay karo.
Okay.
We have been very good with all our vendors. So whoever we have sort of employed to build our spaces or whoever was working at our spaces, they've always got their salaries and payments on time.
Okay.
So when COVID was there and when we made calls to our owners and saying, this is a hard period, everyone's struggling in the country, please do something on their end, they were sort of, accommodating.
Understanding.
Yeah. So that sort of helps. So if you've been, good to people that have sort of been around you, then it sort of pays back.
Understood.
So it paid back for like 6 months, 8 months period. Then there were some people who were sort of taking up spaces with us because people who were our clients also were not clear.
True.
Ki kya hone wala hai. So some people paid for 3 months, some people paid for 6 months, some people like had a space for like, for example, 30 people. They would only send 10 people, right? But they would still use the space and they would pay for that, 10, 12 people, or in some cases they would pay for like 20, 30 people.
Understood.
So we had some clients who were sort of using the space all the time.
Okay.
We sort of became a little bit innovative as well. As I said, spaces are utilities. So we said we will give out our spaces to people who need it.
Okay.
And a lot of doctors needed spaces at that time. So we said we will give our spaces for doctor consultation.
Okay.
So we had doctors who would call in and say, okay, give me a space. I need to take telemedicine calls and I have like sort of clients across the country. Can I come in and use your space? And we said we will do that.
This is the first time I'm hearing doctors working out of co-working spaces.
Yeah. And then we had given our spaces to students.
Okay.
A lot of students who couldn't study at home, they would come to our space and say, okay, we need a reading space. Can you give out our spaces?
Kind of a study hall.
Study halls.
Understood.
So we, became innovative. We said, okay, we'll give out our spaces in these instances. We'll not be fixated on giving it only to IT clients or only to like people who need offices.
And how do you identify a right location for your next project? Like, what are the factors that you consider, maybe in terms of building, what kind of a building, visibility of the building, parking, for example, and location, landlords, renting, leasing. So just what are the factors do you consider?
Yeah, so I think we see our business as a grocery business.
Okay.
Right. So if you think about a grocery business, right, the way they start a grocery store is they see if there are people that live around that area. If people live around an area, there are some basic services that people would need. So one is a grocery store, khane peene ke liye to cheezein chahiye. And then an office space, a place where people can go and work at.
Okay.
Right. So if there are people, if there's a locality which is dense, then you would need office spaces, how we see it.
Okay.
Right. Then once we identify a locality, we see what is the right building at that locality.
Okay.
The building should have some sort of an edge. What I mean by that is, for example, our high-tech city Durgam Cheru location, it has a view of the lake and the bridge.
Okay. Cable bridge.
Yeah, cable bridge. So imagine people, fantasizing that, right? view के साथ है, bridge के साथ है. A lot of people look at that and come to our space.
Okay.
When we did our first 2 locations, we got at a very good rental price. So we could offer a very good price to our clients.
True.
Right. Then when we did our Kokapet location, we actually built out a space in a factory. We converted a factory warehouse into a co-working space.
Crazy.
Right. And then if you look at that space, if somebody enters that space, it's a 26-feet height reception. Marble flooring, there's a beautiful staircase. I mean, you should visit that center. And only then you would understand what we're doing there. It's a beautiful center that has come out, which we launched just a couple of months ago.
Understood.
Right. So there's always some edge that we sort of look for, which will differentiate us from the rest of the spaces that are around that area.
Understood.
Yeah.
And how does building a community play a role in expanding your business?
I think it plays a key role. It has played a key role for us in terms of what we've done in the past 3-4 years. Because the community events and activities has put the name Cokarma out there in front of everybody.
Okay.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why you are talking to me, right? Because you've heard the name of Cokarma. You've heard the name
multiple times,
right? So it plays a big role in a couple of sense. One is that's a way for us to give back to the community, right?
Okay.
We give out our space for free most of the times.
Free.
For people to come and conduct their events.
Okay.
And for people to network and sort of meet each other, meet their clients, meet their sort of future co-founders, future colleagues, right? And for us, it's a way for people to understand that there is a brand which runs a co-working space and it has these buildings and these locations.
Okay.
So it goes both ways that way.
So Tarun, you said from your 4th branch onwards, you started partnering up with people, especially landlords who have buildings and who are looking for someone to operate out of it and make revenue for themselves as well. So let's say I'm someone who has a 4-story building, and I'm looking to partner up with Cokarma. So what ROI do I get?
Yeah, so typically the way it works is, let's say if you're getting an X sort of an ROI by just typically renting the space,
it out,
you would get about 20 to 25% more if you're working with a Cokarma.
Okay, 1.25x.
1.25 as a minimum.
Okay.
In some cases, some property owners get 1.4, 1.5 as well.
Okay.
Right. And what that means is you would understand what sort of a setup we would need, and you would build that setup as per our specification.
True.
With our vendors or your vendors in our guidance. And then once the space is ready, you would start making an ROI on your infrastructure and your property that would have sort of typically got a rent.
Okay.
Right. So on the infrastructure investment, you would make anywhere between 18 to 24% per annum.
Okay.
Right. As a business, right? So that becomes like a business stream for you until the time Cokarma is in. Some properties we've been there for about 5-6 years now.
Okay.
Right. And then, you would get a stable client who is renting that property for that period. So for example, for a lot of landlords, if they rent out to a client, the client would stay for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years max, right? But if you would get in a co-working player like us, there are chances that we would stay for 10, 15, 20 years.
Understood.
Right? So that's a stable income that the property earns for that sort of a period.
So what's the traditional lock-in period you get into?
Typically, it's a 9-year agreement that we do with any sort of property.
9 years agreement. Yeah. Okay.
And then, expandable for another 5 years, 10 years, depending on how 9 years go.
Understood. Yeah. So I, as a person, just have to give my property you, and I have to make the initial investment in terms of making that property in terms of your requirements, and then I'm just a sleeping partner after that.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Understood. Perfect. Now that you're reaching a capacity of 3,600 seats across Hyderabad, how do you micromanage things? In the sense, when you started your first outlet in Himatnagar, it was a 40-seater place. So managing things becomes easier over there. You look after everything.
Yeah.
But now at 3,600 seats, right? How do you still ensure that the toilet paper is still there in that toilet? How do you still ensure that the room fresheners are being used? How do you micromanage things at the scale?
Yeah, so now what we do is we rely a lot on systems and processes, right? So we have processes for pretty much everything that we do in operations. Okay. And then there are like sort of we use technology and we use other things to sort of make sure that things are there in place. And then people, right? So we hire great people, right? That's one thing that we're good with. We hire good people at good places so that they make sure that things are done in the way they're supposed to be done. Also, I would say that we're not perfect as a company, right? We make a few mistakes here and there as well. And then our clients are nice to us sometimes and sometimes not nice to us by telling us where we have made mistakes, and we correct those mistakes pretty much immediately.
Perfect. And is this a 24/7 working space, or like a lot of office spaces I've seen, they are limited to day shift? Like you can finish your operations by 7 or 8 max. After 8, they generally don't allow you to work. You just have to come back the next day. So is this a 24/7 thing or just the day thing?
Yeah, no, all Cokarma branches are 24/7. So once you become a monthly member, you can come in and use the space anytime. Much, yeah.
You said monthly members.
Yeah.
So do you have anything apart from monthly thing?
So there are like 3-4 products which we have within
Okay.
co-working. Our primary product is the monthly members who
Okay.
would take up a space for a team which is like from 4 to 10 members to about 100 200 members as well.
Okay.
In a lot of cases, right? So that's our primary sort of cash flow and product.
Mhm.
But apart from that, we have temporary members as well who would like take a day pass. So if somebody would need a space for a day, then they would book a desk for a day.
Mhm.
They would use it. Their access is limited only till like 7-8 p.m.
Okay.
Right. And then there will be meeting room bookings, which is again a temporary sort of a product that we have.
Okay.
People can book a meeting room for a meeting or interviews or anything that they're running for a day or a few hours. And then that is also limited in terms of hours, right? So they can only use it till 8 p.m., right? Until our team is there.
So I can book up the whole space as a person.
Yeah.
I can only book up a meeting room. I can take monthly subscriptions as well.
Yeah, correct.
Understood. Perfect. Now, we pretty much discuss everything that happens at a co-working space, right? From taking feedback to how the name came up, to how the expansion happened, raising money versus being a bootstrap company, partnering up with people. So I think we spoke pretty much about co-working spaces. Just one thing I had in mind was, let's say I run a company of 20 people, right? I'm looking for an office. I have the resources to buy a standalone office, right? Wherein I have the financial freedom to do that. Would you still recommend me to go for a co-working space?
I would definitely recommend you go for a co-working space, because if you're running a team of which is like 20-25 people, there are a lot of challenges you will have as a business owner. The first challenge will be finding a space which accommodates 20-25 people, especially if you're looking in the IT corridor.
Okay.
In the IT corridor, you no longer have like smaller spaces.
Okay.
It's only like larger floor plates, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 square feet spaces.
Okay.
Right. So finding a space becomes a challenge. Now, once you've found a space, you have to do the infrastructure yourself, which is build all the interiors.
Okay.
Then building that infrastructure will take 3-4 months, 5 months. Right? So find an interior designer, find something, furniture that fits into your taste. All of that you have to do. And then your space is not ready. After it is ready, you don't know whether it'll be as you envisioned or something else.
Okay.
Right. Then you get in your team. You have a team of 20 people now. What if you have a team of 200 people 6 months from there? You have to look for a space again. You go through the entire drill again.
Okay.
Right. And then manage every little thing. If the coffee machine mein coffee nahi hai, then you have to manage. If the internet goes down, then you get a call saying the internet has gone down. I'm not able to do my work. Every little thing you will have to manage. Every little bill you have to manage. All of that is taken care by a co-working. If you enter a Cokarma, you would enter a beautiful space which is already done.
Okay.
And then, when clients come in, they would envision that, I'll be able to bring my like sort of CEOs over here, or I'll be able to bring my high profile clients here. Right. And then the space is ready for you. You can start off next day pretty much in most cases.
Okay.
Whether your team is like 2 to 4 people or whether your team is like 30-40 people, right? If a space is available with us, you'll be able to start off pretty much next day. And then all you have to do is pay one bill. Right? You don't have to manage multiple bills, multiple things to look at. You just have to pay one Cokarma bill, and rest everything is taken care in terms of office space.
Understood.
The only thing that you have to focus on is growing your business, growing your team. Which is what a co-working enables you.
True.
A co-working enables you to focus on your business and grow your business.
The reason I was asking this question is because earlier the notation was like, people get into co-working space are the people who can't afford an office for themselves. But this question was from the perspective, I have the money to afford an office.
Yeah.
But still, why co-working spaces?
Yeah.
So one thing is expansion becomes easier because you again don't have to redo things. Also, how does having a community help me as a founder to groom my team?
I think it's key. I think as founders, right, a lot of times, you're lonely in your journey. Right? So imagine yourself sitting in your office and not having any other founder to talk to. Right? Versus, for example, we had a case the other day at, we run a center which is behind Google office.
Okay.
There we have two companies, one company running a 25-30 people sort of space, and then another company other founder who's been running a successful business for about a year and a half. Right?
Okay.
So the person who has just started, he's struggling a lot in his business and he's about to shut down.
Okay.
Right? And the only person he could speak to was the other person who was running a successful company there. He had a shoulder where he could go and say, okay, this is what I'm doing. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. Where can I improve in my product? What should I do with my team? Should I let go of my team? Should I keep my team? Should I keep my company? Should I shut my company? So he could get an advice from a founder on what he could do, which is very, very valuable. And a lot of times you don't have that. So you get that. You have a community of other founders who can help you
True.
in whatever stage you are in. Second, what you have is you can find clients within your space,
Okay.
right? So, for example, we are an HR company who had all her clients at our space. She had 5, 6 clients, and she was running her entire 4, 5 people company just with those clients.
Crazy.
So you can have clients over there. Thirdly, what you have is a lot of networking opportunities in the events and meetups that we do.
Okay.
So we do close to about 70, 75 events in a year, right? And you can meet new people. You can hire. That's an opportunity for you to hire new people. That's an opportunity for you to hear from other successful founders.
Understood.
On what they've done in their journey and learn from those journeys and implement that in your business.
Okay.
Right. So all of that you get only if you come out of your thought of running a business from your own space to running your business in a community environment.
Understood.
A community environment only comes if you come to a place like a Cokarma.
Understood. Makes sense. Also, like now that we are heading towards the end of this podcast, now you are someone who's running a company who's generating around 30 crores worth of business every year, right? So I can consider you to be a really sizable founder.
Right.
What advice would you like to give? Like not what advice, but I would say what qualities do you think every founder must have? Can you name 3 of them?
Qualities every founder must have.
Yes.
3 of them. I think the top would be sales.
Okay.
Right.
Why
because
sales?
Because you're selling all the time.
Okay.
Right. And when I say selling, a job of a salesperson is to problem solve.
Okay.
A lot of times you're problem solving for your client, which is understanding what they need and then providing that in terms of a product. Then you're problem solving for your employees.
Okay.
Because you are helping them grow in their career and help them learn, help them become a better person from what they were.
Understood.
So a lot of people who come to Cokarma, they are a completely different person when they leave Cokarma, right? So you're problem solving for your employees. So you're always selling that way.
A solution.
Right. So you're always selling, and then you're selling to new members. We are selling to partners. You're selling to investors. So sales is a very, very critical skill, which means you're problem solving all the time for somebody, right? So sales is number 1.
Okay.
Second is accounting.
Okay.
Numbers. As a business person, if you're not a numbers person, then you're not running a business, you're running a hobby.
Okay.
You should know where your revenues are coming from, what your expenses are, and what is left at the end of the day. Every unit that we run at Cokarma is a profitable unit. We only run it if it's a profitable unit, if we see profits in it.
Okay.
Right. So run whatever you're doing, and every unit, focus on every unit in terms of generating profits from there and giving returns to people who have invested money.
Understood.
Right. If you can't give returns to somebody, and if you know that from day one, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Understood.
So make sure that you understand P&L, you understand numbers, you understand where you're sort of making money, and whether you can. And then if you're good with numbers, you can run the business bootstrap way, you can run the business venture way.
Okay.
You can run the business both ways if you understand
Understood.
numbers.
So one is sales, second is
numbers. Third is find a zone where you can go in and think creatively. Okay. So be creative.
Can you elaborate on this?
Yeah. So what I mean by that is, right, this entire journey of building a business is a creative process.
Okay.
If you are not creative, it's very hard to run a business or be an entrepreneur. So for me, right, every morning I spend like at least an hour and a half by myself doing nothing. Sipping coffee.
Okay.
Letting my thoughts flow. If I get an idea, then I write it down. If I think of something good that I can do in my business, I write it down and implement it. If I have ideas, if I have improvements that we can do, if there are certain gaps that we can fill in a certain way, that's the time, that's the zone that I make myself get into consciously.
Understood.
So find that zone for yourselves. For me, it's my balcony every day in the morning.
Okay.
For somebody, it could be a quiet night. Somebody can be a Batman and have that zone in the night. Yeah. Somebody could have that zone within their office while they're reading.
Okay.
In the middle of the day. So find what that zone is, but have that creative space where you can think by yourself.
Understood.
And solve problems for your company and for yourself.
Understood.
3 things that you need.
Perfect. Also, one question I just came into my mind was: is Cokarma pet friendly?
It is, yes. We have a lot of clients who sort of bring their pets. Most of them is dogs and cats.
Understood.
And as our community is growing, we are thinking of having a pet day. Cokarma Pet Day, where one day of the year everyone should be able to get their own pets, and then they have a members day, members pet day.
Perfect. Yeah. Understood. And what advice would you like to give to someone who's planning to get into this industry? Again, I know you're giving advice to your competition,
right?
But why not?
Advice to people who are trying to get into
co-working industry.
Don't get into it, because Cokarma is going to kick your ass.
Okay.
Right. But secondly, I think it's a people's business.
Okay.
End of the day, right? It's the people that you're working with all the time
Okay.
when you're running a co-working. And Ekta and I, right? When we were starting this, when we were running that 40-seater center, we were like, why are we even doing this? 40 सीट का सेंटर है, कितना तो मतलब पैसे कमा रहा है ये सेंटर. So we pin down what are the things that are important for us while we are doing, why are we actually doing this. And the number one thing was the creative founder energy, that people energy that we have there, right? So make sure that you have good people who are using your spaces so that you can deal with them on a daily basis.
Okay.
Make sure you hire good people. Make sure you're partnering with good people.
Understood.
Right? For example, I've made my best friends out of running this space.
Okay.
Right? Charu and Shantanu, who are like, who help us run a couple of events, they've become our best friends. They've taken an apartment in the community that we live in.
Okay.
So it's a lot of times the people that you have in the journey rather than the journey and the destination.
Okay.
It's the company, not the journey and the destination.
Understood. Yeah. So, perfect. Makes sense. All right, we pretty much spoke about everything.
Yeah.
Right, we got a lot of insights about the co-working industry. We'll just wrap up then.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you so much. Lovely having a chat with you.
Thank you so much for being on the show. It was pleasure meeting. So that was Tarun from Cokarma talking about co-working space and an industry. If you found something valuable from this video, do click on that like button and do subscribe to our channel for more business content. Thank you for watching.